and welcome back to my channel. Today we're doing our monthly wrap up, so we're going to discuss all the books I read in the month of April. Now, normally I would have like my stats and stuff for the month, but I've not been updating my story graph consistently because now I have Goodreads story graph and Fable, and I've fallen behind on my story graph. But like next month, I'll make sure to catch up, so I'll have all of these stats for you. But I'll just give kind of a rough estimate of what I read. I've got 2 thrillers, a literary fiction, 2 manga, 2 fantasy, a romance, paranormal romance specifically, 3 romances, and a sci-fi. And I will say, this month has been kind of mid when it comes to my ratings. I don't really feel like I had any real like bangers. Like there were 2 books, and I've already talked about them, so I'm gonna be quick about it. But there were 2 books that I definitely were my top reads of the month, but I didn't have any 5 stars, which is sad. I got close. I had a 4.5, but no 5 stars. And then everything else I feel like was around like a 3-ish star. So, and like the 2 that were close to 5 stars were at the beginning of the month. So it's been like weeks since I've had like a 5-star read, and I still have yet to have a 5-star read. So we'll see how this goes. I'm hoping in May I can get some good 5-star reads, especially because it is my birth month. So, that'd be a great birthday surprise for me if I could get some 5 stars. But let's get into the books. Now, the first 3 I will just kind of rapid fire through, and they are Don't Cry for Me, Razorblade Tears, and Killers of a Certain Age. All of these I have a reading blog for. They're in my trying to read through my book of the month video. And Don't Cry for Me, I gave 4.25. Razorblade Tears, I gave 4.5. And Killers of a Certain Age, I think I gave 3 stars. So I guess I'm not going to go too much into any of these, but I think the top one definitely was Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby, and this has definitely made me want to read more from S.A. Cosby. I know he had a book last year that came out. I think it's All the Sinners Bleed. Very much looking forward to that, and he has a book coming out pretty soon, King of Ashes. So I'm definitely an S.A. Cosby fan after this one, and this is one that I really, really hope they make into a movie, because I'd be first in line to see it, because it's like so action packed, and like so like things are just happening, and honestly so heartfelt as well. But like that one needs to be a movie. I need it so badly. And then Don't Cry for Me, that was also a more sad book. I still really enjoyed it. It was definitely sometimes frustrating at time with our main character, but I still thought it was a great book, and I definitely recommend to other people. I did get the companion novel to this, Isaac Song, from Book of the Month recently, so I'm probably going to be reading that one this month as well. So I'll have read both. And then for Killers of a Certain Age, this one is very Thursday Murder Club-esque. It's just I feel like Thursday Murder Club was done better because I feel like the characters were more interesting. In this one, I kept getting all of the characters confused with the other because it is 4 older women, and I don't feel like any of them were like super distinct enough for me to be able to pick up on who's who when we would switch perspectives or switch talking about who's who. I just I couldn't keep track of it. So I gave it 3 stars. It was fine. I felt like it was kind of predictable. I also did just find out it is a series. The sequel recently came out. I'm probably not going to read it because I don't know. I didn't really love this first one, and I'm not really invested nor care enough to read the sequel. The next book I finished was Dungeon Crawler Carl, and this one I think I also gave 3 stars. It wasn't bad. I listened to the audiobook, which I do recommend. The audiobook for this is amazing. There's a lot of sound effects because it's a lit RPG book, so like all these like level ups and power ups and all that stuff, they all have these different sound effects, and I just really enjoyed that. So if you're gonna read this, 100% recommend the audiobook. But I think my gripe with this is that I don't think lit RPG is for me personally, because like all of we're getting to the next level, we're getting all these power ups, and we're becoming stronger. I didn't really care about any of that. I am not like I'm not a big video game person. I've never really liked video games or been into video games, so I don't really care about it in a book either. And I did think that maybe it was the audiobook I wasn't vibing with, because sometimes it happens with me. Like I can't click with an audiobook. So I pick up the physical book and it works better for me. I did try to start the second book physically, because they are all on Kindle Unlimited, if you don't know. I think I read literally the first page and I went, absolutely not. The audiobook is definitely where it's at, because it was like I was just missing the voices and it was missing like all the sound effects. So I'm definitely gonna give the second book a shot, and hopefully I like it more. But if I'm not vibing with that either, I just think that maybe this genre of fantasy isn't for me. Next up, I read the Polished P&P series by Lila Rose. I gave the first two 3 stars and then the last one 2 stars. Honestly, the series wasn't great. The first one follows it. They're all I didn't think I said all. This is an MM romance series, and it's a MC Club romance as well. So the first one. Our main character is the brother to one of the club members, and then the other one is a club member, and it is like a bi awakening story. And it was like a easy, fun read. Like there wasn't any real stakes, there wasn't a real any plot either, if I'm being honest. But I thought it was fine. The writing wasn't great, but it was fun. I was into it, and I thought it was a good story. The second one, I originally wasn't even gonna continue with the series, but then I found out who the leads were going to be in the second book, and it's the original brother I told you about from the first book. It's him, and then another club member. And in the first book, he was very much like staunchly straight, so I was like interested. I mean, like it was clearly was another like bi awakening story. This one had a bit more stakes, a bit more plot, quote unquote, and like more things happened. The other one, like nothing really happened in it. There, especially because they were an MC club, you would think that would like kind of affect it. It didn't, and I thought there was like a plot line that came up that I thought would start something, but like nothing happened with that. It was in the background and nothing really interesting happened with that. This one, something did kind of kick off at the end there, and it was a bit interesting. And then the third one, which I thought would be my favorite of all three, because it follows one person. He's part of like an escort service, and he starts falling in love with one of the guys he's going on dates with, and he doesn't like sleep with anyone. He just like goes on dates and like hangs out with these people, even though the escort service does have that other side of it. He doesn't do that, and he starts to fall in love with him, and then he kind of figures out, okay, like I'm falling in love with the client, like I have to end this and like disappear, and that's what he does. And I was expecting this to be like the client guy, he figures out that like, oh, he's also into him too, and because he like cuts him off and like ghosts him, he's like chasing after him to find him, and it was like that thing. That's not what it was. This one had definitely much more action and much more plot, but like I just felt like the action made it so that there didn't need to be any relationship development. It just like clicked into, okay, yeah, they're together now, that's what's going to happen, because of all this other shit that was happening. I don't know, it just didn't work for me. And I thought the writing was glaringly bad in this one, even though I'm pretty sure it was pretty on par for how it was in the rest of the series. I think maybe I just was invested more in the plot for the other books than I was for this one, so the writing just felt worse. But yeah, it wasn't good. And then I'm going to go out of order a bit because I also read A Torn Page, which is by the same author. However, this is a Why Choose paranormal romance. It does have sword crossing. This one follows Paige, who like dies and comes back to life, and then she figures out, I guess, that she's supposed to be like the next queen of ghouls. And there's all these other paranormal creatures. There's a vampire, a warlock or witch, another ghoul, and then a werewolf. And I think that's the 4 guys she's with. That's kind of their designation. And I think there's probably other things. I don't remember. But this one was also fine. This is actually another trilogy. I did DNF the second book because, like I said, the writing was not good. And at least in the first book, it was interesting enough that I was willing to kind of push through. The second one, the plot was kind of on par, but like I just felt like the writing was really getting to me, and it was not good enough that I was willing to push through how bad I thought that writing was, and I just like I couldn't do it. And like one of my main gripes is in this story, I guess how she like figures out that, because I think she's like, I don't know, she like somehow like imprints on them, and like they're like, it's how she knows like they're supposed to be like her mates, and like they all decide to stick with her. But like every time one of the guys like uses their powers, it like turns her on, and it's like something she can't control, it just happens. And I thought that was incredibly dumb. Like, because it would happen, like they'd be in like some life or death situation, they would use their powers, and suddenly she's getting hot and bothered. I'm like, I hated it. It was so stupid. And it just kept getting brought up. And also like so much of the dialogue was so cringy. There was one point, because in this world none of these species like commingle, and you can't like fall in love with someone of a different species. You have to stay within your species or whatever. And so at one point they're going to like fight some people who like don't believe that, who believe that and who want to like stick to those old ways of like, if you're a werewolf, you stick with werewolves. If you're a vampire, you stick with vampires. Blah blah blah. And she walks up to these people and they're like, "Oh, we need to go, save this person." She says, "Yeah, let's go fight some bigotry ass." That's genuinely what made me tap out. I was like, I can't do this. I can't. And then I did pick it up. I was like, maybe I'll push it. Maybe it'll be fine. But then the whole getting turned on when they're using their powers thing happened like 2 pages later, and I was like, no, I'm done. I gave up. So this was just not it for me. I know this is like a pretty popular one because I've seen it recommended a few times. I just really didn't like it. And if you're someone who like has to have decent writing, this probably isn't going to work for you. But if you're someone who can get past bad writing, I would recommend. Like the story's good. It's just the writing. It's very bad. It's really cringy, and it was just hard for me to read. After that, I read 2 manga. One of them was How to Deal When Your Intimidating Neighbor is Actually an Omega. So this is Omegaverse. This one was good. I didn't rate either of these because I really don't have strong feelings at all on these. Uh, they were fine. This one is definitely much more explicit. And I remember when I was reading it, because I got it on my Kindle, there was really no lead in to the one of the smutty scenes, like especially the first one. Because you'd think, there'd be something to like cue you in, okay, things are about to get a bit more spicy. I literally was reading something, it was totally normal, whatever. I flipped the page and I just get like straight butthole shot. So it was definitely a shock. I was taken aback a bit. But it was a good story. It was very short, and I think it's only the one. I don't think this is a series. I'm not sure. But I mean, if you're interested in Omegaverse book, because the one of our main characters, he's an alpha, and he thinks his neighbor is also an alpha, but then his neighbor goes into heat, and that's when he figures out that he's also actually an Omega. And then I don't know, they just kind of hook up and hang out for like the rest of the book because nothing else really happens in that. And then the other one was The Metalhead Next Door. This one was a bit more sweet. This one's just like a regular romance. It's not Omegaverse. The one of our main characters, he like passes out in the snow one night, and his neighbor saves him and like warms him up, and then they just kind of hang out for the rest of the year, and they're hanging out sometimes, and they're figuring out they like each other. They're just hanging out. This one also does have a spicy scene, but it's like at the end, like the very, very end, basically like in the epilogue. So if you're not into like spice, you could definitely easily skip over it because it's literally like the last thing that happens. But again, this one was cute. It was fun. I don't really have any strong things to say on it. It was cute. All right, the last 2 books I read were books 2 and 3 in the Chronicles of Narnia series. So I read the Prince Caspian and The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. Both of these, again, I gave 3 stars. Again, I really don't know how I feel about the series. I feel like I'm kind of so about it, and I feel like I'm just kind of pushing myself to finish it just because it is like a classic fantasy and so many people have read it. And it is, very popular. There was the movie adaptations. And I will say these are the last 2 books that involve the Pevensey siblings. So those are the ones that all the movies are about. And I am going to continue on with the series. A little sneak peek to the TBR for next month. But after this, I really don't know where the story's going to go because I don't think any of the other ones have adaptations. So all of this is going to be brand new to me. So maybe I might enjoy it more since I don't know what's going to happen. But yeah, both of these were 3 stars. They were fine. And yeah, whatever. Right now, we'll kind of rapid fire go through my planned, hopeful TBR for the month of May. First up, I have Jade City. I am still reading this. I'm about 50% of the way through. I'm still enjoying it, and it has taken me a while to get through because this is technically a reread, and I know what happens in like the latter half of this book. So I'm just kind of mustering up the courage to continue reading it because I know what's going to happen, and I just don't know if I'm prepared for that. But I'm hoping to finish this in May. Also, don't know if you guys saw, but this Fond du Lis just announced that the paperbacks are getting new covers, and they're pretty cool. I like them. To be honest, I don't know. I feel like I like these ones more, even though they are pretty basic. I feel like I do kind of like these more, but who knows? I might still end up buying those as well because I'm not one to turn my nose up at having multiple copies. I love having multiple copies of books I love, so I still might get them. Another book that I am currently reading is Men Who Hate Women: From Incels to Pickup Artists, The Truth About Extreme Misogyny and How It Affects Us All. this has been a pretty good book so far. I'm 120 pages in. I am really enjoying it. It is a nonfiction. And like I said, I'm reading it physically, which is very unheard of for me because most nonfiction I do listen to on audio because I just feel like nonfiction can tend to be a little dry, but I feel like this one's very readable. It's interesting. I enjoy it so far because a lot of my how I felt through this book is either like disgust or disbelief. Reading some of the things that like this author has seen in a lot of these like forums for like the incels and the pickup artists, it's just honestly disgusting. But it is very enlightening and I have been enjoying it. And honestly, I do recommend it so far. Even though I haven't finished, I do really recommend it. And then, like I mentioned, I am continuing on with Chronicles of Narnia. So I have books 4 and 5 out on audio on Libby. So I'm going to continue on with those. And then as well, I have out on Hoopla Catching Fire and Mockingjay, which are books 2 and 3 in the Hunger Games series, because originally I've never read the Hunger Games series. I've read the first book. I read it originally back in high school, and I actually DNF'd Catching Fire the first time I read it because I got like halfway through and then suddenly had this epiphany that like, oh, I don't like dystopian. So I just put the book down and I never picked it back up. I reread Hunger Games like a year ago because I wanted to read Ballads of Songbirds and Snake. And then I DNF'd Catching Fire again. And my reason for DNF the second time was kind of dumb. I'm not going to say why because it is a bit spoilery, but I did DNF Catching Fire again. But I've got it out again. I'm going to finish it, and I'm going to hopefully finish Mockingjay because I do still really want to read Ballads of Songbirds and Snakes, and then hopefully continue on and read Sunrise on the Reaping. Now, last up, I don't know if you guys have seen, I've started a new series on my channel where I'm trying to read through all of my Book of the Month books. So I did pick out 4 that I tentatively may be reading for that video. But the first one I want to talk about is Isaac's Song, which, like I mentioned, is the companion novel to Don't Cry for Me by Daniel Black. So this one is a pretty short one. So I do think I will get to this one because I really did love Don't Cry for Me. And I'm excited to read, Isaac's perspective on things that have happened in that book and like I guess how he's dealing with it now. And the next book is Wild Dark Shore. I really don't know much about this. I just know a woman like washes up ashore on this family's island, and then I think they kind of like build this bond with her and like get closer with her. And I think there's also like a mystery at this because I think it's considered a thriller, or it has like thrilling aspects, mystery thrilling aspects. So I am excited for this one. I know everyone seems to cry at the end, and like I love a book that can make me cry. So I'm excited to read this, and it has great reviews. So definitely a solid contender. I think these two I will solidly read. The other two, maybe not. But since those two are a bit more heavier reads, I think I wanted something a little lighter. So I got Ready or Not by Cara Bastone. This is an accidental pregnancy romance, I believe, which I don't mind. I know people really hate like accidental pregnancies, prize pregnancy. I honestly really like it. I know that's a very unpopular opinion, but I really, really like it. So I have this one because I think this will just be a nice little palate cleanser after going through some of these heavier novels. This will be a nice, fun read. Hopefully this isn't like something that's really sad and depressing and the cover is just trying to fool me. But that's the plan at least. And then the last book is Thistlefoot by Jenna Rose Nethercott. And full disclosure, I had absolutely no idea what this book's about. I got this book from Book of the Month at a time before I figured out that I could skip months. So I just got this because I think it sounded like the most interesting and I wasn't really interested in anything else. I believe this is a fantasy. And I don't know why. It gives me like, what is that? The brother and sister? Hansel and Gretel. That's what's reminding me of. I feel like it's giving me Hansel and Gretel vibes. I could be very wrong, but that's kind of what it's reminding me of, at least this like picture down here and like kind of the vibes of the cover. But I have no idea what this is about. So in the video, hopefully maybe I'll figure it out and maybe that'll be fun. I think going into this blind, maybe I'll like it more since I don't know anything else about it. I really have no preconceived notions for it. So I'm excited to, go into a book blind and see how I feel. I almost forgot one book, but Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. This recently came out and I have not heard great things about this. People have been pretty disappointed by this. However, I've heard many people say that this book leans more women's fiction than romance than a lot of her other books, which I don't mind. Like, I love a women's fiction, so I think I could like it. I feel like maybe I'll be the exception. I'll really like it. But also, at least for me with Emily Henry, I know her books are solidly romance, but I always have felt like her books have a very even distribution of like the literary women's fiction to romance. They've lent more like 50-50 with that. I've never felt like it's been like a solid 80, 90, 100% romance. So the fact that she's just going more in the women's fiction lane doesn't scare me and doesn't make me think that like I'm not going to enjoy it as much. So I'm excited to get to it. I have started already. I'm only like 22 pages in, but I've enjoyed, those 22 pages, 2 chapters. So I don't know. I feel like I'm trying to like hype myself up to be like, I'm going to be the exception. I'm going to love this. But that is it for today's video. That is my full wrap up for April. And then all of the tentative maybe books I hope to get to in May. I'm hoping we'll have some 5 stars in there somewhere, but we shall see. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that I have a solid 5 star for my birthday. But that is all for today's video. Please like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.